Welcome to this guided meditation and Dharma talk. My name is Jonathan Foust. Delighted to have you here for this little period of time. Thank you for making the time. I'd also like to thank our mindful movement teacher. Also, thank you to Glenn Harrison and Leo Gimo for producing this evening. And thank you as well to Ray Manioki and Tara Cassidy for hosting the Mindful Dialogue session after this talk. Just to say, if you're wanting to have the whole experience on Monday night meditation, do check out the Mindful Movement at 6:30 to get you ready for coming into meditation and the talk. And then afterward, a wonderful opportunity to connect with like-minded people, reflect on the talk, reflect on your practice, hear from others, share what's present for you. It's a very, very cool offering here. If you want to know more about those links, which are on Zoom, you can check my Facebook page or go to my website and you'll get everything you need right there for that. Thank yous keep rolling along here. A big thank you to the Insight Meditation Community of Washington for hosting this class, to my good friends at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Arlington, which has been the host of Monday Night Meditation for many, many, many years, and hopefully will be again someday. Also, to let you know, I have a mailing list. If you'd like to sign up and get updates about resources for your practice and stuff like that, please feel free on my website. And as well, just to let you know that this is truly offered in the spirit of generosity. To me, it's so important that no one ever be denied access to these practices and these teachings, especially now in these trying times. If you feel inspired to make a donation to support this, greatly appreciated. There's an expense that goes along with the editing and getting these talks out there. So I appreciate that if you feel it. And if you don't, that's fine too. All my talks are available online. I got a library of talks there you can get on my website. And basically just to say, I'm just so grateful to take this time to be able to pause and slow down and begin to tune into wisdom and loving presence. So thank you for being here. So let's settle in for meditation. We're going to be meditating for approximately the next 27 minutes. You might like to move or stretch in any way that feels good for you. Posture is so important in this practice. So do whatever you need to do. Get yourself all settled in. You might like to, perhaps to close your eyes and just take stock. There are a couple of ways that can help you to prepare for meditation that I find really helpful. One is, and you may have done this if you've practiced with me or with Tara, take a few moments to sense if you were to try not to be aware, what happens? You may sense in this inquiry that awareness is happening all the time. You really can't not be aware, maybe for short periods of time, but then you'll be aware that you're not aware. So this backdrop of awareness, of self-observation without judgment is possible here in this practice. And in its essence, it doesn't require effort. It's already here. At the same time, it can be very helpful to begin to explore gathering your attention and then opening your attention wider and wider to explore this state of presence. And that's what we'll do in this practice. So one more way that you can help prepare the field for meditation, sensing this backdrop of effortless awareness. And this is to take a moment just to reflect on just one thing that you feel grateful for. One thing you appreciate in your life. And just take a few moments to name it. Name it in a word or two, and then notice if there's any kind of a felt sense that begins to resonate inside. And can you sense what appreciation, what gratitude feels like inside? How precisely can you locate that feeling? And so we'll now move into this practice and focusing first on the practice of gathering, of arriving, and most efficiently discovered through concentration and focus. And one of the best tools we have is the breath. So you might like to take in a long, slow, deep inhalation, counting to about 4 or 5. And then glide right into the exhalation to the count of 4 or 5. Move right into the inhalation. And now continue for this next little while, matching the length of the in-breath with the length of the out-breath. And can you minimize that moment of stillness between the in-breath and the out-breath so the breath is continuous and circular? And as you continue, you might try this and just notice the effect on the inside. Is it possible to smooth out your breath? How intimately can you feel the breath on the inside as you match the length of the in-breath with the length of the out-breath, smooth and full and deep? And now, if you like, just 3 more of these breaths. Sense if you can increase your concentration while also relaxing. Now, if you'd like to work with this a little more, we're going to adjust the breathing technique. And again, just track the inner experience. You're inhaling slowly to the count of 4 or 5 or maybe even 6. But on the exhalation, completely relax and let the breath fall out of your body. A slow, willful inhalation and a completely surrendered exhalation. How much can you let go on each breath flowing out? And now, if you like, on the next exhalation, release all control of your breath. Moving from control of breath to observation of breath. Let the breath be free-flowing and effortless. Where do you feel the breath on the inside right now? And let's deepen this sense of here and now by exploring on the inside, softening and arriving, smoothing out the forehead. Could you soften through the muscles of your face. Could you in any way relax or soften your lips? Relax your tongue, your jaw, the inside of your mouth. The back of the head and the base of the skull. The back of the neck and the tops of the shoulders. Feeling now the weight of the arms, your arms like heavy drapes. And sensing down through the elbows. And down through the wrists. And you might imagine awareness flooding into your palms. The backs of the hands. The thumbs. And each of the fingers. The lungs and the heart. And the diaphragm and the rib cage. The lower back and the buttocks. And the belly and the lower abdomen. The floor of the pelvis. And sensing now from the inside, from the hip joints down through the knees. The backs of the knees and the kneecaps. The knees down through the ankles. The tops of the feet and the toes. The soles of the feet and the heels. Is there anything right now that could relax or soften on the inside? And can you sense simultaneously this sense of deep relaxation, but also a quality of alertness? And you might move your attention now to an anchor or a focal point of your choosing. And for many of us, it may be the breath, the sense of the breath on the inside, at the nostrils, or the belly. You might like to explore the real-time sound vibrations as your focal point. Some find that flooding your palms and fingers and thumbs with awareness and holding your attention here can be a very powerful way of calling yourself back. Whatever you choose, whatever anchor you choose, let this be your home base. Knowing the nature of the mind is to forecast and move into the future or review what happened a moment or a year ago. That moment of awakening is essential and part of the practice, a beginning again, guiding your attention back to re-arrive and receive the moment. When you notice your mind lost in commentary, take a moment to honor and celebrate this moment of awakening. And can you let it go? How graciously can you re-arrive? Relax and feel your anchor or your focal point on the inside. Relaxed, alert, here and now. One way of practicing meditation is to emphasize concentration or focus, selecting an anchor, and as soon as you are aware that the mind has wandered, you bring it back. Another way of exploring this training and awareness is to sense the seat of the witness, your capacity to observe without judgment. And here you can widen and broaden your attention, sensing the background, noticing what's changing, but also noticing the filter through which you are perceiving your experience. The three primary filters are a mind that is wanting, desiring, a mind that is aversive or judging or pushing away, or a mind that is confused, not particularly clear. And you might explore in your own time, arriving, establishing concentration and presence. And then in your own time, widening, broadening your attention, noticing what's changing and noticing your relationship to what is happening. Any subtle movement toward or against. Sensing this quality of non-judging awareness. In these remaining 5 minutes or so, you might refresh your practice, feeling this foundation of relaxation. You might again sense if you can feel your forehead smooth. And feel the weight and the volume of your tongue. Sensing the belly. And sensing from the inside, the palms and fingers and thumbs. The soles of the feet and the heels. Relaxed and yet alert. And you might bring your attention to your anchor, to your focal point. And just sense over the next 3 breaths, how intimately can you feel it on the inside? Can you sense this inner quality of the witness, of your capacity to Observe without judging. Awake to what is changing. And you might explore, only if it feels right for you, moving from the practice of doing into this practice of allowing. Let the anchor or your focal point drop away. Let any sense of control or manipulation of your experience melt away. Is it possible to let things be as they are? And what could relax or soften or let go right now? Is there anything that could relax or soften or let go even more than that? Deeply relaxed, at the same time alert. Awake to everything that is happening and letting it be. And you might, if you like, deepen and lengthen your breath just a little bit. Notice how intimately you can feel the breath on the inside. Noting the quality of presence, your inner state right now. With your eyes closed, you might very gently begin to let your head drift a little bit to the left and to the right, sensing the movement from the inside. And as part of your meditation, just sense how your body would like you to move right now, whether just to rest or perhaps to stretch, to shift your position in any way that feels most pleasurable. Welcome. I'd like to share with you one of my favorite stories in the the tradition in which I spent many, many, many years. This is a story that goes way, 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 way back, and so apropos, and really what I'd like to share with you. This is a story about a hermit who had his little hut next to a pilgrimage path. And late at night, someone who was a pilgrim on the path stopped by the hermit's hut and said, "It's dark and I feel compelled to be on my pilgrimage, but I can't see. Do you have anything? Could you help me in any way?" And the hermit said, "Certainly." And he brought out his oil lamp. And he lit the lamp and he gave it to the pilgrim. The pilgrim thanked him, took off into the night, and came back maybe 10 minutes later and said to the hermit, "I'm sorry, I wasn't clear. My pilgrimage is hundreds of miles. I have a long, long way to go, and this lamp you gave me, it only illuminates 10 feet in front of me." And the hermit smiled and said, "Yes, 10 feet by 10 feet by 10 feet by 10 feet. I find a lot of peace in that story because we all sense the path is long. We want to know, we want to be able to see the goal, see the end, see what's around the corner, but all we have access to is 10 feet by 10 feet by 10 feet. So it becomes this exquisite balance of knowing your goal, but also paying attention to the 10 feet in front of you. These days have been, at least for me, absolutely harrowing. It's so easy to get confused these days with all the turmoil in our culture right now. There's no clarity around how to respond, how to react. I'd like to talk a little bit around your path, the next steps on your path. You know, I found with all the turmoil around the election going on, as I've mentioned before, this poet has said it's sometimes helpful to take the 3,000-year view. And I do find some real peace in that. So knowing where you want to go and remembering where you want to go is so key here. So what I'd like to talk about is in 4 parts. The first part is about reacting to life. How when you're not awake, you are just stuck in constant reactivity. The second part is around being called to a goal, being called onto your path. The third part is around staying on the path, but learning how to skillfully course correct when you get off the path. And the fourth is a little exploration of, is there really a path or is there not? It gets out there a little bit toward the end, but I think it may be helpful. So when we are not awake, we are consigned to pure reactivity. And as I've been in conversation with different people and listening to different conversations with people around the election, and someone sent an email saying, "If this guy wins, I am taking my kids and I'm leaving the country, no question about it." Others have said, if this guy wins, it means the election was stolen. And we've seen the violence, the threat of violence, the incredible polarization. And I don't know about you, but I've been waking up with a churning in my stomach. And I think part of that churning in the stomach is perhaps just sensing the shared angst that we're under right now, and also very fearful. So I'm wondering what your highs and lows have been through this last week. And I would imagine that you have felt this churning as well. You know, highs and lows are part of life. But it's interesting how what I've noticed is that reactivity to life can be quite painful. What I've noticed is that when reality agrees with me, I feel great. When reality doesn't agree with me, I feel terrible. And so we have this phrase from the third Zen patriarch who said, the great way, or life is not difficult for those who have no preferences. That's pretty powerful. And I think we all can sense that. When you are without preferences, life is fine. But is preferenceless awareness the way to go when it comes to politics and social justice? Well, maybe, and maybe not. But what I find is that without mindfulness, without non-judging awareness, you're destined to live in constant reaction. That you will be destined to be arguing with reality over and over and over again. And as they say, argue with reality, chances are you're going to lose. So the question becomes, how do you align with reality? How do you get on board with reality and become an enthusiastic, cooperative force with reality, if you will? And so if you want to get real, you'll notice how you're not real. And as this tradition points out, you're going to notice this filter that is colored by three main energies, if you will. How this filter through which you are perceiving will either be flavored with greed, a wanting, desire, fantasy, planning, or it will be filtered with hatred, aversion, judgment, blame, ill will, or it'll be flavored with some form of delusion or confusion. That is to say, believing something's true and it isn't, or not believing something true when it is. What mindfulness reveals, what this practice reveals, is the filter through which you're perceiving. And man, oh man, if you've been practicing, you probably know how painful that can be. You probably have a sense of how utterly humiliating this practice is, because it just reveals what is not mindful. And so it also becomes very helpful when you're caught in conflict. I was talking with someone a little while back who said, I don't like my job. I hate my job. I dread going to my job. But for some reason, she was staying in her job. So as we explored kind of what was going on inside, there was something in her that wanted to play it safe and stay in the job. There was something in here that really wanted to take a risk and break free. There was something in her that was totally afraid of failure. There was something in here that was afraid of losing approval from her friends. And so she was caught, feeling stagnant, feeling depressed, feeling anger. You know, as has been said by some, depression is it's anger without the energy. But perhaps you've had experiences in your life when you have felt all these competing voices inside. And awareness of how when any one of these voices has the microphone, that's what we tend to believe. And the question becomes, how do you break out of this cycle of reactivity? Well, the bad news is it's there. The good news is that breaking out of reactivity has something to do with awareness, and it has something to do with intention. And when you know what star you are using for navigation, it can be truly helpful. And that star is knowing what the most important thing is in your life. Someone I know decided to become a hospice worker. So she spent many, many hours sitting with people who were dying. And in that, treated to this ongoing variations of regret. Those who felt they weren't true to themselves. Those who were regretful over a relationship that they never took the time to heal. It dramatically shifted her point of view. And she said, I do not want to live a life of regret. I don't want to regret anything in this life. And that became the star by which she navigated, or is navigating, her journey. It became this, what I think of as the definition of your path is what you can't not do. That sense of like choiceless choice. Yeah, you can do all these things, but when you get down to it, this one resonates for me. And so she became this very alive being, doing the most amazing, in my opinion, pretty wild things, but absolutely living her life fully. You may be familiar with this piece, but it's just delightful, I think. If I had my life to live over, I'd dare to make more mistakes. I'd relax. I'd limber up. I would be sillier than I have been this trip. I would take fewer things seriously. I'd take more chances. I would climb more mountains and swim more rivers. I'd eat more ice cream and less beans. I would perhaps have more actual troubles, but I'd have fewer imaginary ones. You see, I'm one of those people who live sensibly and sanely, hour after hour, day after day. I've had my moments, and if I had to do it over again, I'd have more of them. In fact, I try to have nothing else, just moments, one after another, instead of living so many years ahead of each day. I've been one of those persons who never goes anywhere without a thermometer, a hot water bottle, a raincoat, and a parachute. If I had to do it again, I would travel lighter than I have. If I had my life to live over, I would start barefoot earlier in the spring and stay that way later in the fall. I would go to more dances. I would ride more merry-go-rounds. I would pick more daisies. That piece was written, I believe, by a woman who was 85. And so having this sense of what most brings you alive, remembering that and living into it, becomes a way through, perhaps. A friend was telling me about Jordan Peele of Key and Peele, who wrote the script for the movie Get Out, which is an incredibly popular movie. And as he was putting this movie together with his team, there were incredible complexities, because it's a very complex screenplay. And so people would come to him, and he was stuck. He wasn't sure where to go. And then the more he sat with it, this phrase popped up: follow the fun. And so when his team would come, when his co-writers would come and say, we don't know what to do with this scene. We don't know, should it go this way? Should it go that way? And he would say, follow the fun. Where's the fun? And that became their way through to creating this incredibly brilliant screenplay. And as my friend said, when you ask yourself, where's the fun? You're really asking yourself, where's the inspiration right now? Where's the aliveness right now? And so it becomes this very interesting reflection. When you think about your life, when you think about where you would like to be at the end of this life, looking back, what most enlivens you? Are you here to be right? Are you here to learn? Are you here to wake up? The sense of path is really interesting. I ran across this little nugget the other day that it created this really, really cool shift for me. Now, I'll tell you what it is, and then I'm going to offer the reflection to you, because I found it helpful. It might not resonate for you. And it was just this very, very simple thing where someone said, when you feel stuck, think about where you'd like to be in 10 years. Then ask yourself, what specific actions would you take to make that happen? I've been struggling a little bit around a writing project. I'm working on a book proposal, and there's part of me that's really excited about doing it, and I think it'll be really, really helpful. There's part of me that's like, oh, I don't, all the doubts. But when I thought, so where do I want to be in 10 years? I thought, I would like to have this as an offering. I'd like to be offering what this book offers and sharing it with people. And then suddenly the path kind of got a little illuminated for me. Like, okay, so the next thing is to figure out how to solve this problem with my book proposal and move it forward. So if you like, you can close your eyes just for a moment and take 3 deep breaths. Relax on the out breath. And just explore this question. Where would you like to be? How would you like to feel in 10 years? And is there anything specific you might do in the next few days that would move you toward that? What might that be? And if you like, you can deepen your breath. You can open your eyes or remain with them closed. No one's watching. Oftentimes, people will say to me, I don't know what my path is. I don't know what I really, really want. And here I find there's incredible help in this phrase attributed to the Buddha. Finding your Dharma is your Dharma. Finding your path is your path. So you are on your path. Right now, you're on your path. Perhaps there's really nothing to change, but more to kind of pause and listen. And this takes us into part 3, which is around course correcting on the path. When you know what you want, when you have a sense of what that is, it may not be specific. It may be specific things you want to accomplish in life. It may be a feeling you want to cultivate. It may be a short-term intention. It may be a long-term intention. But once you have your goal, and this is part of the consequence of the hero's journey, you're called on a path, you commit to a goal, then you are immediately beset with obstacles. The lessons you need to learn on your way toward that goal. So part of the path is around embracing the obstacles, letting the obstacles be your teacher, and cultivating the resilience to keep going. So now with all these new cars coming out, we have this whole autopilot function where you can be sitting in a Tesla or other brands as they're coming out, and the car is going to stay in your lane. It's going to anticipate the next red light. It's going to determine how far it's going to stay with the car in front of it when you're going down the highway. It's going to scan for anything on the road that it needs to avoid. And how that works is you've got these cameras, and then all this information going back and forth between the input and then all the micro adjustments happening in the computers to keep this car between the lanes and have you feel safe. And those microprocessors are processing so much more information than the brain can manifest. So basically what the computer in your car is saying is like, you're a little to the right, you're a little to the left, you're a little to the right, you're a little to the left. The car just slowed down 1/10 of 1 mile, so now we need to adjust. Now we have this function. You have this function internally. I'd often to describe it as a function that is in your brain as you're walking down the street going, don't die, don't die, don't die, don't die. You're scanning for danger, just like a Tesla is. And what happens is, what we're doing is we're taking feedback to readjust. And in an interesting way, as you're on your path determining what the next step in your path is, we have this brilliant function of pain. Part of the feedback loop that you have available to you is pain and stress and suffering. It's a signal that something is calling for your attention. It becomes an opportunity for some kind of a shift. Often I've talked about the AFGOs in your life, another freaking growth opportunity. And this is where an instrumental part of taking the next step on your path relies on the power of the pause. We are time-bound, future-oriented beings. We are oriented toward this process of never-ending self-improvement towards some perceived goal, whether it be reality-based or not. When you pause, what you're doing is you are disabling this whole mechanism of greed, hatred, and delusion. The mechanism that has you unconsciously moving towards something, moving away from something, confused about what's happening. And you can begin to open yourself to the feedback. When you begin to sense where the suffering is inside, you are getting very, very important feedback around your conditioning. When you realize, for example, oh, so this goal I have around getting to the next level in my career is linked to a really deep fear of failure. And that sense that if I get that job, then I'll be happy. Let me look at that mechanism. Is that really true? When you begin to recognize just how much greed, wanting, and desire inform you, how much aversion, judgment, blame, self-protection informs you, and how deluded your mind be, believing beliefs that really aren't true, for example, all that becomes really, really interesting feedback. As you begin to kind of unwind your conditioning, quite often, that's when the sense of the goal becomes clearer, or you become more aware of what it is you really, really, really want. And so, in the paradox of the path, those who find themselves moving along the path in a way that continues to open into new possibilities happen to be those who embrace the challenges, who see a roadblock as an opportunity to develop mastery, who see that some setback becomes an opportunity to sense, what can I learn from this? How can this be my teacher? So, remembering that you're on your path, you're already here, like it or not, you're on your path. But part of the responsibility on the path is to pause and to listen. And in that listening, to begin to sense, what calls me right now? Is what I'm doing now moving me toward where I want to be? And this becomes a very empowering part of the path. Quite often, when we start out, we're basing what we want based on what people tell us we should want. We have some vision based on the input we have from our culture of all the things that are going to make you happy. And when you begin to really slow down and pay attention, when you decide you're going to take the blue pill or the red pill, that when you want to wake up, it starts to reveal all the goals on your path that you thought would fulfill you, that no longer do. And why so many people who, once they really begin to slow down and they begin to notice what's not working. People who realize, the people I'm hanging out with, it's not that, now that I'm really slowing down and paying attention, it's not that fulfilling to me. I used to love these kind of movies, and now I don't. I used to really enjoy these activities, and it just doesn't fill me up anymore, and now I'm more attracted to this. So slowing down, embracing the obstacles, and recognizing what's working, what's not working. Very, very empowering. It's not fun because you're always scrubbing away what's not you. But what I love about this particular practice and my understanding of the articulation of the practice is it's about finding your own authority. When the Buddha said, be a light unto yourself, he really, I think, was saying, don't look outside yourself. Don't believe teachers. Don't believe what's written. Don't believe popular opinion. But find out what's true for you and sense whether that truly resonates. And so on the path, we try different things. And as the Buddha said, you give yourself to it fully. And then you evaluate. Do I feel more whole? Do I feel less whole? And then make your adjustments accordingly. So embracing the feedback you get and course correcting becomes a critical part of the path. Remembering what you truly, truly want. Assessing the feedback around what you're doing and what you're not doing that's moving you toward that becomes an important part. And this is where relationships, sangha, community come in really, really handy to share about what's exciting you, what's not working, to hear from others. What are you doing that I might do? That's what I love about spiritual friends. So all this is to say that one model, it's not the only model, but one model is to ask yourself what you really, really want. What's the goal? And then what are the strategic steps you can take toward that? To be constantly in a process of getting feedback. What's supporting you? What's not supporting you? There's another model, and I thought I might kind of close with this. This idea of, we have this sense of like the path is this linear path. There's now, and then there's sometime in the future, and as time moves along toward this perceived future, there's kind of a ever-present kind of unfolding. But another model is this articulation of the pathless path. That what many traditions speak to is there's nothing outside of here and now. Nothing is outside of here and now. That as consciousness becomes more awake, there's more and more of this recognition of how much arises from the present moment. Now, I was trying to think of an example of this, because I've given this example many, many times of how in any given moment, all you have is what is happening in this moment. And then to inquire, how does this moment want me to be with it? So you're responding to the moment. And that's the path, moment by moment by moment. But I had this experience, and it's pretty freaky. And it gave me this little insight. I was in the Peace Corps living in West Africa in Niger. I was teaching in a university, and the university was kind of on the other side of the Niger River from the main city where I lived. There was this one thin little bridge, Le Pont Kennedy, the JF Kennedy Bridge. It was just 2 lanes. And on this bridge would be heavy-duty trucks, camel trains of like up to 80 or 100 camels, cars, bicycles, mopeds, foot traffic, herds of sheep, all coming and going back and forth. It was a It was an amazing cultural experience to cross that bridge twice a day. I was leaving my office at the university, and I saw a colleague's car driving down, driving away. And I thought to myself, oh, I wanted to talk to Tom, and I missed him. And this little voice just said, you'll see him in a few minutes. He's on the bridge. He'll be on the bridge. Something terrible is happening. I just noticed that thought, and I just got on my little motorcycle and I took off, and there was this huge traffic jam on the bridge. And because I had my motorcycle, I could kind of weave my way up toward the top of the bridge, and I saw Tom on the bridge, and we chatted for a moment, and it was this way that the camels would bring firewood into the city, and if I dug down with my head just over the handlebars, I could get underneath, and toward the top of the bridge, there was this young boy who was struck by a truck and was dead. How did that moment arise? How did I have a sense of what was happening somewhere else? I think there's something here about how everything we're looking for is now. As one great teacher said, when you think about something you really, really want, and then focus on the feeling that you want to have, and then ask yourself, isn't it true that that feeling is already here? This idea of the pathless path is really based on this sense of how all you have access to is right now. So if you would, just a little experiment. You might close your eyes. And if you like, you might just slow down and deepen your breath just a little bit. And as you just sense inside, take a moment to relax and feel. What are you feeling right now? Could you name it in a word or two? Is there a sense of how this moment wants you to be with it? And if you were to offer that, if you were to respond to that, what's that like inside? Take the next few moments just to track any shift inside. And a second inquiry. In a few minutes, this little talk is going to end. And when you sense, as this talk comes to an end, what would most enliven you? Without a story, without a sense of what you should do when this talk comes to an end, what most enlivens you? What would happen if you did that? If you like, you can deepen the breath. If you like, you can open your eyes, or not. This sort of inquiry has really informed my meditation practice. As I recognize that my mind state is all over the place, my physical energy is all over the place. There are times when I benefit from gathering my attention when I'm scattered or over emotional, I can't focus, concentration really brings me back. There are times when then kind of taking the seat of the observer is really helpful when I have a sense of present moment awareness to broaden my awareness and just sort of notice, like, how am I filtering my experience right now? Is there some wanting? Is there some pushing away? What's between me and really non-judging awareness right now? That's usually based on some form of present moment awareness that I can broaden and widen. And then there are moments when what I'm really sensing what the moment needs is just to call on some kind of loving presence or compassion. And then I feel a sense of ease and flow coming through. There are times when there's something really strong, and what I really need is to turn my attention to really investigate what's there. Physical pain or strong emotion. And then there are times when it's almost effortless just to let things be. But see, the thing is, it's about responding to the moment. It's not about trying to make the moment happen. It's subtle, but it's been really important in my life. Responding to the moment rather than trying to make the moment happen. This present moment awareness is integral to a path. As a good friend of mine was just telling me recently, he said, when I'm with my kids, I owe them to be fully present. My greatest gift I can give them is to be fully present for them. When I think about the creative process in my life, it's only when I've let go of an agenda or a story or attachment to an outcome that I can begin to get into that flow state. Accessing flow only comes when you suspend attachment to the results. And then the moment starts to become more alive, and then you start responding to the moment, and then the moment starts to unfold. And this all comes when we embrace the pathless path. Of course, your path could be to take the pathless path. And so it becomes this incredible paradox. How do you sense the next step on your path? It has something to do with knowing what you really, really want. Remembering the star by which you are guiding your life. It has something to do with pausing. It has something to do with sensing what is most enlivening right now. And when you can take that next step based on your own inner authority, your life can transform dramatically. And so I thought I would finish with this reading and then a short meditation, this American classic from Robert Frost, who described this moment that so many people in our culture resonated with about the path. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both and be one traveler. Long I stood and looked down one as far as I could to where it bent in the undergrowth. Then took the other, as just as fair, and perhaps having the better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear. Though as for the passing here, had warned them really about the same. And both that morning equally lay in leaves no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day, yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. I shall be telling this with a sigh. Somewhere ages and ages hence, two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by. And that has made all the difference. your path is different than the path. You are already on your path. And the next step will be informed out of the present moment. Let's close with a short reflection. If you like, you can close your eyes. You might take 3 slow and full deep breaths. And just relax on the out-breath, and in your own way, you might sense the path you are walking now. You might intuitively sense that which has called you onto your path. Sensing the allies on your path of your capacity to see clearly, of your capacity to call on the wise heart. And you might just sense this somewhat of a radical inquiry. In this moment, as you sense the next steps on your path, what is most enlivening? What's most nourishing? What lights you up? And you might sense in your own way how the more alive you are on your path, the more enlivened and lit up you are, the more you will be able to be fully present not only for yourself, but for all those you love. The brighter your light, the more you might join the light with others. And you might, in these closing moments, wish yourself well. Imagine your path illuminated with a greater sense of ease and well-being, more readily guided from within. You might slowly now deepen your breath. As you're ready, if you like, you can open your eyes. Thank you so much for your time, for your attention. In these challenging times, may you be guided by your own authority. As the great sages have said, happy trails and Hakuna Matata.